Welcome to Positive Waves, everybody. My name is Matthew Collinson, and this is my great friend,
Joseph Soma.
And today we have Ray Chobanian on again, and we love having Ray on, and he has his project, which is launching, so we wanted to have him back on. Welcome, Ray.
Hey guys, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So can you go into what your project is and what you're doing for the world here?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Raise Recovery, RAISE, Raise Recovery, and it is a global addiction recovery support community. And I am preparing to launch that on a Noble Goldman platform here very soon. And I actually launched a fundraiser for it a couple weeks ago. So there's a video we did in a previous podcast. I have a video on YouTube with a donation link in there. But basically, I kind of started my journey helping other addicts after I got clean myself and started an in-person group, which is still running in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I've had some really good results with that group. And I've just, throughout my whole recovery process, I've felt this pull to help others. I mean, part of the recovery process is, service and helping other people. And I felt a pull and a calling. I started out taking meetings, taking commitments and meetings into rehabs and hospital detoxes, and speaking at just different meetings, sharing my story, helping other people, sponsoring some guys. And then for a little bit, I had some life changes. I was kind of not really doing too much with it. And then some things occurred and started up again. It kind of led me down this path of starting this group that I do now, which is not NA or AA. It's not affiliated with those. It's its own kind of thing. And it's a group that I take recovery-based principles from like the 12-step kind of traditional recovery, mindset principles like things that Bob Proctor teaches, and biblical principles, and tie them all together. So it's a Christian-based recovery group, the one and the in-person one. Now, this new one, the global online Raise Recovery, certainly hope to help people come to know God, but if they don't, or their beliefs just for whatever reason they just don't line up with that, my goal is to just help people to better their lives, get clean, and understand that they can truly live a life of freedom without the use of substances, and have a purposeful, fulfilling life. So I'm planning, I might just start with one, but eventually I want to do 2 meetings a week. I want to do one for the actual people who are addicted or struggling or recovering, and one for families, because there's a great need for, families and people that have loved ones who are, in active addiction or using, and just looking for some support. They don't really know where to go or what to do. I mean, I have people call me all the time, like, my daughter, my son, what do I do? And I just talk to people. So I'm always talking to people about it. And just, it's interesting. It's kind of just the way my life the path has been laid out, to follow. And there was definitely some resistance at first, because it's not, it's a challenging thing, and it can be unnerving sometimes. But I've been through the depths myself, so low, and I've just been a monster myself. So that fear has been like alleviated from me, of like helping other people that are really bad. It's given me a lot of experience. So I just want to use that, and bring it to the world, and help other people who are struggling with that. So that's kind of the form of it.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful service. It's what I love about you, is that you're using your darkness, that hard part of your life, to really shine a light for others. And that's a huge thing in my world for sending positive waves around the world, is that I want people like you around me that love to do that. So when a person first comes to you and they're curious, or they're like having that problem, like you said, my son, my daughter, and that kind of thing, what kind of stuff do you talk about? Like, how do you have them approach that with those people? Because I know at first they're just not sure what to do. So what kind of advice would you give a person first approaching somebody that's having a problem?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Matt. I would say, I first couple of things I tell people is number one, you can't put this on yourself. Like speaking to a loved one of an addict, you can't put this on yourself as something that you can cure or change. Okay, so that's the first thing. The person who is addicted has to come to a point that they actually really want to change as badly as they want to breathe or as badly as they want to get high. So it's all on them. You can talk until you're blue in the face. You could, put them in jail. It doesn't matter until that individual wants to, or comes to something happens that sends them that way, down the path of recovery. I mean, you're not gonna, because a lot of people think that it's them and there's something they can do to help. And I tell people, well, one thing you can do to help is not enable, because a lot of times loved ones they see their, maybe like, for example, I just use myself. My mom would see me, strung out, dope sick, and I'd just be completely miserable, like feel like you're dying, And so I would beg her for money, and she would give me like 20 bucks sometimes, and all that did and was feed it, So but in that position, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what else to do. She just felt really bad. She saw her child suffering and wanted me to not suffer, So it's a very tricky thing. It's a play on emotions. So I try to tell people, look, don't enable. Sometimes people go to jail, and sometimes that's the best thing for them, to get some time away. I mean, it's not always, it doesn't always help, but they want to like bail them out all the time, and always have an open door. They'll be out on the streets for a period of time, and then come back knocking on the door for a place to stay. And I totally get, it's a very challenging and difficult thing, but I tell people, like, don't enable. Um, and just, you gotta just kind of at a point detach yourself from it, because it can damage the loved one as much as the addict, and it could really hurt you. So those are a couple like of the very first things I tell people, because that's really the truth of it.
So we know the parents or whatever loved ones care for the person. Obviously, they're trying to help, they just don't know how to help, kind of thing. So if you're trying to open that door, is there a way to approach that to where you, like, I know they're not organized in their mind at all because of the drugs and the use and that kind of thing. So I would be curious as to know if there is like a soft way to approach it maybe with people. I mean, I don't have anybody currently, but it has affected my own family for sure, and I know it's affected my wife's family, and like, so it's like it's in all of our lives. So if you see the problem, I wonder if there's a healthy way to approach that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know if there's a soft way to approach it, because I mean, addiction is a very hard thing. There's not like a simple answer to it. I mean, you can have interventions. They even had that show Intervention, you know what I mean? And you see how that goes. I mean, that's kind of what you're dealing with, is like people react negatively. And a lot of times, I know for me, from the point I like got into recovery, or start attempting to like go to meetings and stuff, it took me 5 years just to admit that I was an addict. My life's in shambles, and it's like, well, I'm not an addict. I can stop using. It's the drugs that's the problem, and we justify it. And because like this substance has hijacked the user's brain into thinking that they need it as badly as air. So if you knew that you had to go get your air every day, I mean, you would probably do whatever you had to do to get the air because you need it to survive, right? And so that's kind of the mindset that a person's in. So, given that information, there's really no easy way that I've ever found, at least, to approach it. I don't think it's kind of like one of those things where love doesn't you can be loving, but approaching it in like a kind way like doesn't usually get you too far. I mean, I think tough love would probably be better. Showing them tough love, like whether that's having a closed door when they come and say you're not welcome here. I mean, as bad as that might hurt, as hard as that might be, that can sometimes be a step in the right direction. I mean, it's a very complicated problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there's really a soft way to approach it.
Yeah, kind of. I get that. I can see that. I think it's like letting them get to that point to want to change, essentially, or figuring out how to kind of help them get to that point, even if it is that kind of thing. Like I know that with one of my cousins, for instance, he kept coming back to my parents, and my parents finally said no more and wouldn't let him in and that kind of thing because he kept breaking the rules, I guess, as it were. He kept going doing the same thing over and over again. That's the cycle of insanity, which is inherently that reptilian side of our brain holding us in that cycle, which the drugs enhance that part. So that kind of sucks. So when a person does decide and they want to come to you and kind of start working at it, what is like an exercise or something that you do that can help them kind of shift or start to shift, I guess?
There's a lot that I use. Honestly, there's quite a few, and I usually take people through like this process, right? You got to start somewhere, and so when I have someone new come to the group, I'll like kind of review some points. And one of the things that I have found that was really profound and works really well. I mean, I like to use visuals and like a whiteboard and marker up some illustrations. So I think there's some kind of maybe automatic nature to humans that we expect things to be linear in some sense, and there's like this underlying narrative for the masses that life should be kind of like a level kind of consistency, and it seems like a lot of people try to strive for that level consistency. So especially when getting clean, I mean, this process of recovery, it's not linear, and I want to give you guys a little illustration here about what I'm one of the things that I use. So let me do a share here, and I'll just illustrate for you one of the things that has worked really well. So we kind of tend to think that life should be kind of, for the most part, like that, pretty straight, pretty. It seems like that's like what I was saying. A lot of people aim for that. So I tell people we could draw like an XY axis here, okay, and let's say the bottom one is time, and let's call this one quality of life, QOF. Okay, and so as we go on here, these are our marker points, and I'm doing the best I can here, but let's say at the top here is 100% quality of life. And let's just say these are time at the bottom is increments of 6 months. So 6, 12, etc. So when we first start using drugs, we'll just say our quality of life is somewhere in the 100 point, somewhere up in here. And as we start to use, our quality of life starts to drop over time. And something may happen where we kind of plateau a little bit, and the quality of life drops. And this is a progressive continuum, really. This continues to get progressively worse until our quality of life is basically non-existent. Like we don't really have a quality of life. So in recovery, we're probably like, let's start over again. Let's say now, so that was addiction. Let's say now we are going to recover. Let's say we're down here at 0, and we are starting our recovery journey, and we start to improve a little bit, and it's kind of shaky, and maybe we kind of fall back a little bit. Maybe we go to rehab and we're starting to get clean. We're like, man, my quality of life might be a tiny bit better because I'm not on the streets, but it's still pretty bad. And so we start to learn some things, and this starts to improve. And then some event happens at this point here, and it sets us back, at least a perceived setback, right? And maybe we kind of level out a little bit, and we gain some more knowledge, and we go back up. And we kind of go through this cycle. And again, considering this up here, the what we think it should be, this consistent linear stream through life, this steady thing, is really not. And so upon our journey, maybe there's another setback, right? And we feel low. And then we talk to someone, they help us, we get to a higher point, and we start to learn things, we start to spread our awareness. And it's just this up and down kind of thing. And so it kind of starts to look like this. Now, if you were to actually, the perceived quality of life over time may seem like, man, I'm not really getting anywhere. But when you start to plot this out, and you can actually see that it is an upward movement toward of progress, and quality of life is increasing. So I always tell people, the whole purpose of this illustration, when you're like this, if they hook you up to a heart monitor and it's this, that's not good, right? That's dead. You're flatlined. So a heartbeat looks kind of like this. And so that's what we want. When we have that heartbeat, we know that we're alive. And everything in life is a frequency. Everything moves in waves, and oscillates up and down. And that's good. That means we're living. That means we're doing it. So when we're going through this up here, this is what we want. We don't want a flat stream like that. That means we're dead, And so this is how life is. So we got to this has really helped some people to see this. And actually, one of the women in my group, when I first did this illustration, she said, this is so crazy. And this is how God works, right? He uses our current situations, experiences, and struggles to show us things. And she said, I just had an EKG today, and you go and show me this. And this was like something she already saw that day, only with her own heart, And then I do this illustration that evening at group, and she was just like, wow. And so it's just really interesting how things like that kind of work out, how we're led. And this really resonates, especially after an EKG. You're kind of already thinking about that through your day, and then you see this, and it's like, wow, that's so true. Like when I have the flat line that up here, that's no good, man. That's no good. This down here, this is what we want. And everything moves in a wave like this, in a pattern. So we know we're living, right? And that's how it goes. So that's my little, I'll stop now, but that's one of my little drawings that there's a lot more, but hopefully that helps somebody. When you have those ups and downs, know that it's not going to stay down. And when you're up, know that it's not going to stay up. It's the flow of life. There's an ebb and flow, right? So, and I think we all understand that.
Yeah, I've had a few things percolating over here, but honestly, Ray, I love that. I don't think I'm ever going to use life as a roller coaster. You just created a new thought in my head. It's the heartbeat of life, and I'm going to make a meme for you and send it over to you later, because like I know it came into my head, but it was you that inspired it. So definitely want to throw it at you and use it as well, because that is a perfect image. We always have those ups and downs, and it's always been that roller coaster, but seeing it as the heartbeat of your life, it changes that perspective fully, and I absolutely enjoyed it. But I also want to jump back to the whole enabling and loving and tough love or soft love, or what should you do. And I just wanted to say, in my experiences, it's a person to person situation. It depends on where they are in their addiction. It depends on where they are in their mindset. It depends on how much hate is filling their freaking heart at that moment in time. I know in my worst, people tried expressing that love, and I was rejecting. I was, I was that kid rebelling against the parents, only I'm rebelling against the love people want to shower me with. And that falls into the enabling part. You know, you have to let them hit rock bottom. The longer you enable them, the longer you are delaying their recovery process. And it's when we hit that rock bottom that we realize, I don't want this shit. Fuck this. I need to do something. I need to change. And that's when we reach out and either find people like you, or we start doing the whole YouTube search. And I know going it alone is definitely a long process. It takes quite a while. And hearing what you're doing and what you're creating, like, I'm an advocate for you. I'm going to tell anybody that has any type of an addiction to come work with Ray. Come check out what Ray's doing. Ray can help you walk through it, because it's a lot easier going hand in hand, isn't it?
In fact, I have come to the realization that you just can't do it alone. I mean, I can relate so much with your story, Joe, and what you were just saying, because I had the same exact thing. People wanted to love me, and I was just like, stop caring about me. Let me just do my thing, you know? And I totally get it. So I personally, I believe 100% that it's not possible to do it alone. I mean, I've tried it alone. I was good. I was successful for a period of time, but eventually that came back. And if you look at history, at humans and our human nature, um, whether you believe it or not, there's a story in the Bible that talks about Adam and Eve. And Adam was first created. And then God saw that Adam was going to be lonely and needed a companion. So he created Eve. So even from the beginning, this stuff, someone had to come up and create this, right? So we were never meant, and we have tribes, like back in the Stone Ages, there was tribes and people grouped together to survive. And so we were never meant to live life alone or get through life alone. We need that help and support. And addiction is even more so. And there's nothing like there's a saying in Narcotics Anonymous that one addict helping another is without parallel, which basically means that um, I'm going through exactly what you're going through, and I get you. So I can help you through this, and you can help me through it. But if I go and talk to my mom, who has no idea about it, or my significant other, someone that's not in addiction, they're just not going to get it. They just don't, and that's okay. And they don't need to get it for me to get better. It's so I reach out to the people who are going through the same thing. It's like anything in life. You find someone who's doing what you want to do, and then you follow them, you copy what they're doing in your own unique way. And that's really it, man. So yeah, I mean, without support in this process, I mean, you're sunk. I don't know how you're gonna do it. And I was raised by my dad was a Marine in World War II, right? He had me when he was 61 years old. I was born. And so he was real. He raised me like, men take care of their own problems. You handle your own stuff. You don't ask for help, but you always give help and offer yourself to others. You lend your stuff to people, your tools, whatever. If people need you, you're always of service to others, but you never ask anyone for help. And so I grew up thinking that that's just how a man should be. And when addiction hit, I thought, well, I have to take care of this on my own, and I should be able to. I'm a man. And that was really detrimental to me. There might be that idea can be very good in some aspects, but when it's taken to the extreme like that, it was actually very detrimental. And I know as men, I think a lot of men, at least in our generation, probably have that belief or have been raised that way, or another male figure in their lives kind of instilled that in them. And it's just, we got to get rid of that idea, with addiction for sure, so that we need help. And without it, man, I don't know. We're just sunk.
Slowly learning that support equals success. We may feel strong enough to do it on our own, but those fallbacks really, really suck. And when you have that support, you don't fall back so far. You may trip, you may stumble, but you don't fall. And that's what's great about what you're doing is bringing that support so they can equivalent that into a success.
Yeah, definitely. And I know here's another really important thing I just want to say is that, This is scary. This is super scary, especially if you've never been in like an addiction support group or never went to an NA or AA, even if you did go to a few meetings. I mean, it's scary for quite a while. You start out, you want to go into the room and you want to sit in the back and just be like invisible, and silent and not be seen, but you need the help. It's why you're there. And so I just encourage anyone that's hearing and listening to this today to just give it a try, because I mean, I was honestly the same exact way. I was in a whole new world, a whole new area. I wasn't close to family. Like when I got clean the last time, and in this big room of addicts, I knew no one. And I'm coming from like a halfway house on this van, the druggy buggy we call it. And they just bring us guys to this meeting, and I barely know the guys I'm with, and it's just so overwhelming. It can be very like just scary and daunting. And so I just encourage anyone, like if you're feeling like that, know that that's right where you're supposed to be. That's where you start. And it's okay. Like you'll get to know people, and it's going to start getting better. And actually, I've developed relationships with people I've met in these programs that have been like a brotherhood that's lasted a lifetime. And like you said, when you have those things happen in life, right? And it can easily take us back out. Some bad things happen to us sometimes. And when you have that support to fall back on, I mean, that's everything. And someone to hold you accountable. And I highly suggest that people get a mentor, or in like NA and AA, they call it a sponsor. I highly suggest that. I mean, I sponsor guys, and guys with guys, women with women, for some really good reasons, because the sexual thing can get in the way. And I've seen so many people been taken back out because they go to a meeting and they meet someone else and they get in relationship, and it's like two flat tires can't roll, two dead batteries can't start a car, and they're trying to start a car and they're both dead batteries, and it just doesn't work. And I've actually seen people go out and use and die literally. And now on the other side, I have seen, I think, two relationships like that have worked. I don't recommend it. I say for the first year, you don't even think about relationships. No major changes in the first year of recovery, because you can barely handle what you got to handle, right? And when you add all this other stuff on top of it, it freaks you out. And still haven't like figured out my emotional system and just start feeling again, and it's overwhelming. It's almost like what I would kind of think maybe autism might be like an emotional overload. I don't have it, but I have some friends that have kids who have it, and I get that it's like a sensory overload. And that's kind of how it is when you're getting clean, because you're just coming back into yourself. Really, you're starting to feel what it is to be human again. And so yeah, just easy does it, little steps. Understand that you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's a big one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, Ray. We appreciate you. We love what you're doing. Joe, could you do a card pull real quick for the show?
Let me see what pops out. I was so enthralled with what Ray was discussing. I didn't even shuffle while on mute. So see what pops out.
You never did a card pull with me before. What's a card pull?
Oh, we didn't? Oh man.
No, I don't. This is
Ray,
the first I'm hearing about it.
This is out of the Rebel deck. It's the Oracle deck with attitude. And this one flopped already on the third throw. So on one side it says, stop fucking whining. The other side it reads, no one wants to listen to that shit. Complaining makes you weak. You have the strength to change the world. So do it. Ooh, that's harsh but fitting.
It's not hard, love.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I like it.
Beautiful. But thank you so much for sharing again, Ray. I just love hearing about what you're doing, and I know it's going to change so many lives. So I'm grateful as well to be able to help put this out in my own personal space as well as with Positive Waves. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate the support, and I'm just here to serve, and it means the world to me. If it wasn't for me and Matt connecting, what 2 years ago, probably I wouldn't even be here right now. It was just a simple, happened to see him scrolling through Facebook and saw he had like coach or something in his bio, and I was just like, let me send this guy a message. He looks like there is a connection there, and here we are, man. So So thank you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for joining us on Positive Waves, everybody. Support Ray. We're going to put a link in the description to his fundraiser so we can get his global recovery group spread to the world. So let's do it, guys.
Thank you.